Daredevil's first appearance is commanding top dollar due to the upcoming Disney Plus series Born Again. And the Fantastic Four, Coming of Galactus, is also highly sought after by collectors. We'll show you the impressive price achieved the top 5 selling Silver Age books from January 2025. Our Silver Age books, 1956 to 1970, starting with talking about Daredevil. Daredevil number 1. This was 1964, Marvel Comics. First appearance of Daredevil sold at that same Heritage auction, January 12th, for $43,200.
This is another book that I appreciate, but I don't have any, I probably will never own this book.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did happen to stumble across it, I would probably sell it for something else.
Really? I was at a convention last year, and in the convention they had a very low graded copy of the book, and I was with Rich of Comic Caps Collectible, and I think he pulled the trigger on the book. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he did pull the trigger on the book. Like I said, it was either incomplete or something was off of this book. But this book, 9.4. Keep in mind that's the grade of this book is 9.4. A 9.8 last sold on 2021 for $250,000.
Wow.
However, a 9.4 is about the price range of this book when you look at it. So if you look at the sales data of this book, I'm just going to do a quick recap of what 9.4s were going for. It's dropped since 2022 because in 2022 the highest sale of a 9.4 was $78,000. So that's pretty significant, but it's been on this up and down slope for this book. So it sold in November for $33,000. So it had an increase of over $10,000. However, at its height, it was at a $78,000. This particular grade. With Daredevil Born Again coming up, I can see people buying this book.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's take a look at number 4. Amazing Spider-Man number 1. This is a book that's a lot of people's hunting for this one. It's just Amazing Spider-Man is a book that it's always on everybody's list to pick up. So the fact that this book sold, and it's kind of hard to see the actual grade of the book because it is an older version of the book. I could do a quick recap on this book, but Amazing Spider-Man's number 1, 1963, Marvel Comics, first appearance of the Chameleon, first appearance of J. Jonah Jameson. This sold for $48,600.
I have 17,000 books in my collection, Izzy, and I would trade or sell all of them except for 1,500 maybe to get Amazing Spider-Man 1 and an AF-15. I would do it like that.
In a heartbeat, right? It's the book that will sell, and it won't stop selling. It's a fact that this book will never stop selling.
Yeah.
That's how important Spider-Man is to people.
Yeah, world known, pretty much anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think the only character that is more important to Spider-Man is Superman.
That's a
Batman. I think Batman and Spider-Man are kind of like neck and neck, but I think Spider-Man's more. I honestly think Spider-Man's more significant.
And why do you think that? I'm just curious.
Because he changed the way we read comics. So prior to Spider-Man, what ended up happening is that people, when they read their comic books, the characters were over the top, unattainable. Spider-Man was the first true character that was me, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. He was the first guy that I could actually relate to. Not a not a sidekick, because that's what the creation of the sidekick was, right? The creation of the sidekick was to be the relatable character in the book, but in fact, it wasn't. Spider-Man ends up becoming that character, and throughout the years, we managed to see Spider-Man grow to the point that we want him as a grown character now, like a grown adult with a family. That's why Ultimate Spider-Man sells so well, because we're seeing him grow up. You know, he's one of those characters not allowed to grow up.
Yeah.
But we ended up getting Miles Morales, and that's how good the name Spider-Man is, that you could create another character, throw the name Spider-Man, and people, it takes some time, but people ended up loving Miles almost to the same extent that they love Peter, because it's a generational thing now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's why I think Spider-Man is such an important character, because of that factor. And I'm trying to see if I can find the book here. I'm going to use the filters here to see what grade is it. I want to say it's a 6.0, but I'm not 100% solid on that. But I'll find it. Now I got something in my throat. Okay, so it's sold at it's an 8.0 for 45. So 8.0, $45,000.
Would you send that in to get regraded and reholdered?
8.0, you know what? It's kind of hard to do that because I'm afraid of it getting damaged. And not in shipping or anything like that. I'm afraid that, because what you're seeing is a book that was graded back in the early 2000s, right? That's the old label.
Yeah.
So their grading has changed since then. 8.0 is a pretty solid grade to begin with for a book like this. At its height, this book was going for $66,000.
I would do it under very particular circumstances. Like I would actually pay someone that knows a lot more about grading than me to look at it beforehand, and I would only do it if that they said that it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And then I would only do it as a submission to a con where I would get it back, so there's no shipping involved.
I probably wouldn't do it, because I think the book is old enough that it's fragile.
Yeah.
And it's not as fragile as a Golden Age book, but I think it's fragile enough that any little thing could affect it. Anything.
Yeah.
So that's my worry with this book. So do I want that potential 8.5, 9.0? Of course. Sure. But I'm also looking at, it's probably a 7.5. It's probably a 7.0. I recently had a book. I had a book at a 9.2. And it was a 9.2 restored, believe it or not. And I had the book signed, so I had it open, and I gave it to the presser, and I told him, "Hey, is there any way we could figure this out?" He said, "We could figure this out to find out what it is, and if I could get rid of whatever it is, which was a color touch up, then that's a possibility. But keep in mind, you might actually have a point deduction or something." And I said, "You know what? I really want the signature over the grade." Right? In this particular instance, I wanted the signature over the grade. So I got the signature. I gave him the book. The book was at a 9.2. It came back at an 8.0.
Oh, that's a heartbreaker.
But it has the signature, which was more important to me than the grade. So this is, if and only if I still had the opportunity of getting Stan Lee to sign it, that's when I would have cracked it.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, I
So
can see that.
thinking about it now, I would not risk this book getting open because I don't know what's the actual grade now moving forward. So there you have it. The answer is no, I wouldn't do it. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is Action Comics 252. This came out in 1959 for DC Comics. This is the first appearance of Supergirl. It's also the first appearance of Metallo. A lot of people forget about Metallo's first appearance in this book. This book sold at Heritage Auction on January 12th for $48,000. What you thought? And this
Obviously,
is a 9.0.
Main important character for sure.
Metallo, yes.
Yeah, yeah. This is another book like DC Keys to me are, I think of it like that's hardcore collecting. If you're into DC Keys, you're in the weeds, you're knee deep in it. Marvel, it's more common. I don't know. Like this is a book I would pick it up if it was cheap and it was low grade just to say that I had it, but I don't have any interest in chasing it for sure.
Yeah. Just to let you know, this book is the highest valued book in existence that has been sold. 9.0, 252. No other book has sold higher than that one. And there is a 9.2 out there.
Oh, wow.
That's saying a lot. This book actually increased in value. And it's largely because we're going to get Supergirl.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's interesting enough to say that. Let's take a look at number 2. Guaranteed the price of this book is going up. Fantastic Four 48, 1966 for Marvel Comics. This is the first appearance of Silver Surfer. This is also the first cameo appearance of Galactus at a Heritage Auction on January 12th. This book sold for $69,000. What do you think it's worth now?
I agree. Just listen. That's the sound of this book going up. As soon as that trailer hit and they show the shadow in the back of his head, people were going online and finding this book. I don't know how people don't know about it already, but if you're one of those people, you were searching for it and finding it.
Yep.
And a 9.8 for that.
Signed. This is signed.
Verified 9.8 as well. Like unbelievable.
This is a 9.8 sign. I believe this is a signature by Stan Lee.
Must be on the inside.
Yeah, it's probably quite possible, especially with that. If you look at that label is an older label. It's not, it's not the oldest label, but it is an older label. And heck, man, 9.8. Listen to this. This book at its height, not signed, went for $108,000. This person got a signed copy of Fantastic Four 48, signed by Stan Lee, for $69,000. That has got to be the deal of the century in this case.
And right now they're just sitting back going, oh yeah.
Resellability, baby. That is crazy. This book has probably gone up at least 10%.
Yeah.
If saying that.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at number 1. Number 1, you might have guessed it, guys. It's Amazing Fantasy 15, the Holy Grail of the Silver Age, 1962, Marvel Comics. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man. A 6.0 sold at a Heritage Auction for $69,000.
For me, there is no more important or sought-after book than this one. Like we can argue to the death on it with all cage match people if I have to, but I just so I have Marvel Spotlight number 5. That's the first Ghost Rider, which nowhere near the significance, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's still, when I hold it, it is the first time that it was released about Ghost Rider. Like you're holding it in your hand,
Yeah.
and multiply that exponentially for this book. Just, I'd love to own it one day.
I think a lot of people feel the same way about this book. It's considered the Holy Grail because, as we talked about it earlier, this is a book that people feel like this is an attainable book, but they also feel like this is probably the most important book. This is really the most important book of the Silver Age. However, what's important to note is that it is attainable to many people's grasp. Like, it's not like something that I could just, take off my rent money and I can buy this book. But it's one of those books where it's like you want it so badly that you're willing to put an investment to get it, right? You're willing to give up an investment for it. And firsthand that this book's value is never really going to go down. It goes down, but it never really does truly go down. Like, just to give you insight, this book sold for $69,000. At its height, it was $75,000, which really isn't that much. It's really not that much more.
No.
But it was 65 before that, and it was 56. It was 66. It was 48. This book just keeps climbing up. And in 10 years, this book is going to be more. And in 15 years, it's going to be more. And in 20, it's never going to go down. It's going to have some highs and lows, yes. But the actual true value of this book will always maintain.
Yeah. When you go to a show, and I'm sure you've been there, and you see a copy of this, or I've never actually held one, but if you hold one, like, you're going to feel better.
Yeah, you definitely are. So there you have it. Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy, number 15, number 1 for Silver Age. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more comic content. Check out these other videos for even more insight, and I'll see you at the next one. Excelsior.